right, so Beyond Quotas. This is the first segment and first episode of our introduction to the world of Beyond Quotas. First segment is who we are, and the first episode is just touching a little bit more about how we got into the business and in sales, and really kind of expose a little bit more to our viewers about how we're going to really support and transition into a growth in sales.
Yeah.
And I think for us, in providing some of that introduction, a little bit more just of getting to know who we are, I think it's a couple of stories that we have that we want to kind of touch on a little bit more, right? And I think for you, you have a great story in mind, especially with your football life, and I think I would love for you to share it with everyone.
Yeah, and obviously you touched on the football aspect, and I think we all have a kind of a defining moment, and maybe even several defining moments in our life. For me, one of my defining moments is back when I was 12 years old. I got to actually try out for the middle school football team, and I have an older brother, and I look up to him. He's one of my heroes, but he actually played for his football team. So I was excited about being just like him, and I remember like it was yesterday. We went, and on the day they actually listed out the final cuts. My brother actually took me to school that day, and I was excited because I wanted him to be there. I wanted him to share the excitement with me. And when I went there, and we pulled off in the back and went to the gym where they had the list posted, and he told me like good luck as I walked up, and I went up there and I looked and went top to bottom, and I didn't see my name. I must have skipped right over. I'm excited. My blood's flowing and everything else. And I went again and nothing. And I remember turning around, and my brother's giving me a thumbs up, and like he was excited. And then he must have saw my face because he immediately pulled it down. And I was picked on in middle school, and this was my chance to actually be somebody. Have respect and everything else, but really, at that point, football was my life.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're saying I'm not good enough.
Right.
And I remember I get in the car and started crying. I didn't want to show my face in school. I don't want to go home. I want to quit school. I want to do everything. I just don't want to do. I don't want to be seen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget what my brother told me. He's like, you can let this define you, or you can put in the work and get better and prove them wrong. And I wasn't going to let that define me. I decided, so I put in the work. I studied offenses, analyzed scouting reports for the other team once I made the high school football team, and ended up my junior and senior year. I led the team in tackles. Was defensive player of the year both years, and was voted the county's consisting of 4 schools, the county's best defensive player.
Nice.
All as a safety, running a 4.9 40.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's just I was always one step ahead. And I think that it translated into my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into sales, I started putting in the work. I started reading the books. I started, practicing, when I was learning, picking up things that that did work. Getting rid of things that didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Led me to win multiple, awards.
Okay.
And those President's Club awards and everything else, was voted Rep of the Year several years, but all because I put in the work. And that's kind of the biggest thing is that at the end of the day, this isn't, this sales isn't, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, a walk in the park. If it was, everybody would do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to put in the work, and that's one of the valuable things that I've learned over the years. But as far as let's transition to you, like you have a kind of similar story that you it kind of defines you and got you into sales and everything else. Let's talk about that.
No, and I appreciate it. I mean, not to go too heavy into your story, but I mean, putting in that work was a tremendous I think, outcome and a learning experience for you throughout that. And, from a young age, for you to be able to understand that so quickly and then basically translate it to your everyday life moving forward, phenomenal, right? And it's obviously been successful for you, and we'll touch on that. But, for me, the key thing that I learned in my story was never giving up. And I think that resonates for a lot of our viewers, right? Because, we oftentimes, in many scenarios, whether it be, personal or professional, you often face a time in your life where you want to give up. You think to yourself, is this enough, or should I just move to a different direction? So for me, my story is, we're in Atlanta. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, right? We're down in Buckhead here. And, but 11 years ago, I moved down to Georgia straight out of college. I thought to myself, cost of living is cheaper down there. I was in Jersey at the time, super expensive, right? Sure. And so I thought to myself, listen, I got to get out of here. Me and my significant other, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Alicia, we said to ourselves, hey, we need to make a break. And so we did. We had nothing to hold us back, and we came down, to Georgia 11 years ago, and I pursued an opportunity with the sales company. And I'm fired up.
Sure.
I graduated with a business management degree. Ultimately, I wanted to own my own business. The company that I jumped into was a company that basically said, hey, listen, you're going to do sales initially, but the growth metrics here is you getting into owning your own business. Light bulb for me, right?
Perfect. Exactly.
So I thought to myself, this couldn't be any more better and perfect, like you said, for me to move into this career. So I took it on, full feet in, and it was great for about a few months. I had been excelling in my role. I was able to start growing a team as part of my team, working through there, and this is where we first met, obviously, right? In this company, and I was loving the moments, learning as much as I could, the difficulties that I was challenged with. But then as we started getting deeper and more ingrained to this company and how the process was, we come to find out that it wasn't exactly what we were expecting when we first came on. And that's where I started kind of thinking to myself, should I give up? Should I really continue this process? And I would tell you the real defining moment was the company had moved from selling certain products and solutions over and over again. We went from energy services to security systems to telecommunications. And at the end of the day, we ended with the security systems where the company decided to uproot and move to Houston. Huge move for us, right?
Sure.
We were completely blown away with this change, and it was in matter of days or weeks that we really made an uproot. Went over to Houston, and that's where things started to really fall apart, Travis. I got into a rhythm where things were not rolling as it should. There was no stability. There was no progression of growth and true mentorship within the organization that we were in. And at the end of the day, I felt like we were falsely informed of the type of trajectory that we could really have.
Sure.
And for that reason, we started seeing, us being, the 1 and 2 in the company from time to time, holding a top 5 stature in the roles that we were in. And then all of a sudden the company just started not really investing in us, and we in turn did not invest back. And all of a sudden, I was thinking to myself, should I give up? Should I just, step away from this and just forget about sales? Is this what sales life is? Is this what I have to come to think of? Is this all these disappointments, all these false, accusations or false thoughts that we were given? I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I took my bags, I uprooted out of there, and I went all the way back to Jersey. And I was on my last dime in my credit cards, not even the last dime in my pocket, but what I could be maxed out in my credit cards. And, I started realizing and feeling the effects of debt. And for many viewers, I'm sure they've gone through this in their life before. It's one of those defining moments in your life again where it says, hey, do you just go ahead and let this debt and let this situation engulf you and basically put you in a predicament where you fail? Or do you pick up yourself and move forward? And that's what I did. I went back to New Jersey. I started to continue the sales because I did not want to give up, and therefore I really started growing my path in sales. I started from the ground up. I didn't, think that I was this college kid coming out of there and that I was going to make 60 grand a year or something at that time. And no, I understood the struggles and the work that I needed to put in, and therefore I was successful in my current and through my trajectory of careers. So I think that's the real key, right? You facing the circumstances you did, and putting in the work, but then for me, just never giving up. And I think that was really clear there. And you have a little bit more insight in the Houston situation because you were there,
and
right?
That's the thing. I think kind of diving into that, and just to kind of give an idea for everybody listening in that what that looked like. It was 2008, 2009. The market crashed.
Right.
We didn't know anything about it because we were green, way behind the ears and everything else. So we had no idea. So we're walking door to door to people that actually, were underwater in their mortgage. I mean, their 401ks are in the tank. They have no more money. They're resorting to things that they'd never thought before. And here we were pitching something that add more money to their output. We didn't know that. And to kind of dive it, because I think there's a lot of people kind of have a similar situation, but they hear no's over and over and over and over again. And yes, a lot of it probably has to do with our pitch. It has to, our techniques and everything else. But when you hear that over and over again, and then you factor in the fact that we're not making any money, it's a 100% commission job. When you're not making any money, you're not eating.
Right.
And I remember so many, because you mentioned the credit cards, all my credit cards were maxed out. We're talking $25,000 plus. And I remember, because I had a dog with me, we both had dogs. Like I had a dog, all the money that I did make, the random sales that I did make, paid for food for my dog and a Snickers bar for me. I lost 20 pounds in a month and never went to the gym ever. Talk about not eating.
Right.
And that's enough to really say, like, I'm not really cut out for this. Now you're obviously that outgoing type and everything else, but I was an introvert.
Right.
I know how to take control of the sale. I know how to get down to business because I don't want to talk to you forever. So that's a lot. Maybe I don't really. I shouldn't be in the business because I didn't have any success. So never giving up. I think that's the biggest thing because we're always going to go through that, the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys, and just having the mindset of why you went into the business and never giving up no matter what, because you're making a decision to move your forward, project yourself forward,
right,
and really mastering the art, because sales is a beautiful profession. But yeah, I wanted to kind of touch base on that because that's a huge.
No, and what I will add to what you kind of put a little nugget in there is about that introvert and extrovert kind of situation. So I'll just very lightly touch on it because I think for us, as we progress through our segments and our episodes, we're going to even elaborate more.
Sure. But
just for people just to kind of understand a little bit more about what they're hearing about that. From an introvert perspective, if they know you and as they start following us and learn more about Travis, you are absolutely a person that follows technique to a T, right? You do the homework, you apply what you've learned, and that is why you excel, because you don't have that ability to easily communicate to anybody without feeling like there's structure in place. Now, from an extrovert perspective, yes, I can use technique, yes, I might do my homework, but day in and day out, it's more about just creating those relationships with the customer and just being so quick and on the fly, creating icebreakers and really building that rapport with them. That's where it gets me into my type of sales. And this is two different methodologies and two different ways about going about business and sales, right? So from an introvert technique perspective to another individual that does it more of outside the box, just really kind of building that rapport and relationship. There's so much there that can really, give our viewers an understanding. And now there's complexity, right? Yeah. So I think that's just wanted to share that.
And that's a good point as far as, because there's so many styles. Like with the introverts, it's more listening and then developing a solution based on what we hear. And then obviously with the extroverts, more kind of speaking and conversing, talking about random things. But there's so many styles that can work.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about what we've done, is the fact that we can put those together and make it kind of a blueprint, kind of a step-by-step checklist, if you will, on how to actually excel no matter what your type, because it's not an extrovert's business, it's not an introvert's business. It's the people that put the work in and know what they're doing, make the decision to move forward. Because once you follow a proven path, success is inevitable.
Absolutely,
and that's exciting.
Yeah, no, and I think for us, Travis, I think what we bring to the table is absolutely going to be enlightening for many. But I think at the end of this episode, what I think is most valid for everyone to take away is, we have been in your shoes. We understand the process and the struggles and tribulations that come with it. But at the end of the day, knowing that there is experience out there and someone that has gone through and held the bag just as you have, and now has been able to create that blueprint, as you say, to really deliver something that's just going to be so easily able to learn and follow. I think it's just a clear path and a success in any way possible.
And one more thing on top of that, for those that listen in, and you may have picked up on this, but telecommunications, door-to-door sales, natural gas, the security systems, pharmaceutical sales, food and beverage. There's a lot of industries that we've worked in that we understand. The car rental businesses and truck rental business is another one. There's a lot of different industries, and I think that's one of the things that I being the person that obviously that put in the work and went to all the seminars and everything else. There's a lot of people out there that are really just one industry. That's all they know. Maybe they're stockbrokers and they're in that industry. Maybe they're just car sales. Well, a lot of that doesn't translate into other businesses.
Right.
You can use the same techniques, but we've actually uncovered the fact that we can use a certain blueprint based on what who you are to get you to the next level, no matter what industry because we've been through all of them. So I think that's a huge point for people to actually listen into. And
I think I'll just to tie and finish off here this episode. I think let's quickly just touch on what we've done so far in our career path, because as a listener, as we once were before ourselves, for many of these situations and just listening into a podcast, you say, great, okay, you just told me that you were in all these verticals, but what is your path, or what did your path look like for you to be able to share with me some of these nuggets that you say that you can? So for me, I'll just start off real quick. Outside of when I got back to New Jersey from that Houston story, what happened is that I got into a life science company, and I started in a very just standard inside sales role. And I grew in that company, from when I started to about 2 years out. I then became an area sales manager for Latin America and was responsible for, direct reports and managing the market, and, and grew sales over and over again. And, I was in that role for 9 years. And then, I pushed on and went into global sales, strategic sales, as well as just, territory sales. and did that vertical, like you said. I've been in the food and beverage world. I've been in the CPG world, pulp and paper, life science, as I mentioned before, technology and finance. I've dabbled because as a global role, is a solution sell. It's a life cycle that you're building, and a sales cycle that is longevity. It's not this 1 to 2 month kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of this 12 to 24 month type of sales cycle, right? So I understand that greatly. But for you, you have a little bit of a mixed bag too, right?
Yeah, and again, I think it's going from those verticals, obviously the door-to-door sales, also retail sales I've done, and then you've got the pharmaceutical industry, done multiple different pharmaceutical industries from that point, and also with the truck and car rental as well, holding multiple management positions throughout that company, and really obviously hitting, I'd say like all the awards, but at the end of the day, it's more of growth.
Yeah.
We can sit here and say that yes, I've held multiple bags. I've had multiple awards, many awards,
President's Awards,
all the different ones. But at the end of the day, it's growth.
Yep.
Using the stuff that we've learned and how we've grown, and then avoiding the mistakes we've made. You can't hit much more rock bottom than we've had, and building yourself up from there into a place where you're thriving. That's where we want to give the listener. That's where we want to take you.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to give you a couple nuggets to send you on your way. We want to make sure that you survive. We to thrive and get beyond just hitting the numbers. That's the name itself, Beyond Quotas.
Right, absolutely.
We don't want you to hit the quotas. We want you to live a rich life, and that's what you can really expect from this podcast and from the company itself, because that's our main goal, our main focus is the listener. Can we get you to the next level? And yes, I think we can.
Absolutely. So with that, Travis, awesome. I appreciate you jumping on with this, and I think we're excited about our company, right? And a little bit more about giving our listeners some more of these episodes and these segments that we're going to be touching on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll close it out and on to the next one. Appreciate it.